Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's AFNIS Transformer series, a platform dedicated to exploring Africa's dynamic natural resources and energy sectors. This series dives into key themes like local content development, sustainable resource strategies, and investment opportunities across mining, oil and gas, power, and renewables. Through insightful conversations with industry leaders, policymakers, and innovators, we aim to spotlight transformative ideas that are shaping Africa's economic future. And we're pleased to have you join us for this important conversation, particularly with the esteemed team from Segilola Resources Operating Ltd, who is a key player in Nigeria's mining sector. So when it comes to conversations around ESG is considered to have become critical in driving sustainability, operational excellence, and stakeholder engagement. Now, from responsible environmental management and community relations to ethical governance practices, ESG is no longer just a regulatory requirement, it's a business imperative that shapes the long-term success and credibility of mining operations. So today's session will provide valuable insight into how ESG principles are being integrated into gold mining, addressing key challenges, opportunities, and best practices. So we'll be delving straight into the conversation for today, and we're going to be starting by a general round of introductions. So I'll call on all the speakers on the call to briefly introduce themselves, and I'm going to mention names in no particular order. So what you're going to do is you introduce your name, your designation, and how your role contributes to the sustainable efforts within Segilola Resources Operating Limited. And so I will start with the only woman sitting on the call. She is Madhurii Sarkar Amoda. Could you please introduce yourself and your designation and how your role contributes to sustainable efforts within Segilola organization?
Thank you for that warm introduction, Felicia. My name is Madhurii. I'm the Community Development and Stakeholder Manager, Segilola Resources Operating Ltd. So my job entails basically to ensure that the company has social license to operate within our host communities. So you may ask what social license is. That refers to the public's acceptance and approval, or the community's acceptance and approval of a company's activities, basically. So it goes beyond legal requirements, and it's end through responsible practices, engagement, and then one of the major things is building trust with the community. So I bridge that gap between the company and the community.
Thank you so much, Madhurii. And we have Oluwaseun Fagesi. Could you please go?
Okay, my name is Fagesi Oluwaseun. I'm the Human Resource Manager for Segilola Resources Operating Limited. The HR unit, HR department of Segilola Resources is actually a vehicle that manage the changes within the organization. So, which is one of the things, sustainability. These days we have to manage our people to understand the importance of sustainability within the system. So HR plays a critical role in making sure that ESG principles are integrated throughout the organization. So HR serves as a strategic partner in driving this organizational change, and we ensure that the ESG principles align with the company's objective and the values. So this is what we do in the department, and this is what I do as a manager, managing all of this activity with my team. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Oluwaseun. And like you said, I think the role of HR cannot be underplayed in any organization. So thank you for that round of introduction. So Benson, over to you.
Okay, my name is Onsa Benson Olayinka, Sustainability Officer for Segilola Resources Operating Ltd. So basically my role in the organization, like the Sustainability Officer, basically I drive sustainability actions and initiative. I help collect and track ESG data relevant to the operations. So we help implement the ESG trends, and we report the TOR annual sustainability report. We ensure the alignment with global frameworks for sustainability reporting. We help coordinate research around sustainability trends relevant to our operations as a mining company, and I also ensure regular communication with the top management of TOR in line with sustainability actions. And also, I relate with all departments as regards our ESG and sustainability approach, basically.
Thank you so much, Benson. And to the last man on the call, David Michael, could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. My name is David Michael Mbrekpade. I'm the on-site environment lead within the HSE department. My role cuts across implementation of the environmental management plan, implementation of actions that get towards environmental protection, and also long-term sustainability. So we ensure that we comply with regulatory limits for effluents, for our discharges. Also, we ensure that our waste are properly managed, segregated, and disposal certificates obtained in line with expectations of the government and also as investors. Now, the role also ensures that we protect the environment, wildlife, and also the vegetation. So in as much as we are operational within the mining sector, the mining is high impact on the environment. So the role ensures that in our day-to-day operations, we will seek better ways to carry out operations and also protect nature.
All right, thank you so much, David. So flowing from this general round of introductions, I'm going to be starting with you where you stopped, David, and it's because you touched on the environment. Generally, when we talk about the mining industry, we know that it comes with quite a lot of environmental issues. And you've mentioned quite a few things, which I would like to shed more light on Segilola's role when it comes to environmental impact of mining. So what are Segilola's current initiatives to minimize the environmental impact of its operations, particularly regarding emissions and water conservation?
Okay. Before we can talk about Segilola's current initiatives, we need to get to the background. Now, the initiative is thriving because we had a good foundation, starting up with an EIA. EIA ensured that we looked at the environment in all these critical components and also look at the receptors within their working footprint. So receptors cut across humans, that's people, cuts across the vegetations, the wildlife, and also other interested parties within the area. So we looked at all these components, looked at where we can either interact negatively or positively within them. We set up mitigations. Then finally, we had a management plan set up, which was approved and validated by the government. So what Segilola has done so far is effectively implementing that management plan, ensuring that every component that was analyzed, evaluated, and mitigated is properly implemented in the actual operation, because the positive side of an EIA is in implementing what was documented. So Segilola has been successfully implementing all the laid out actions in the EMP and even gone further to establish additional management programs to ensure that the environment is protected in all arms. Now, looking at present initiatives, we had a design plan approved, and this plan also looked at best situation, location for resources, material, and also where we can site our facility. Now, the water storage dam, the tailing management facility, where all our tailings goes to, because we don't have effluent to the environment. All our effluents goes to the tailing management facility, where we store them, then also take back the excess water back to the process. So all this situation of facilities ensure that we use less footprint in general. So as of today, we are under 80% of the design footprint of the mine and the production facilities on one hand. On the other hand, we also design the facility to ensure that we don't depend so much on groundwater. So as of today, 90% of our production need comes from the surface water dam we've designed on site. And that dam today supports our domestic needs and also operational needs. So groundwater dependence is minimal. Then Then furthermore, to add to this, as a responsible mining company, Segilola has so far been able to drive down the need for fresh water in production process. So as of today, we are doing 80 to 85% reclaimed water used in production processes. So where we have freshwater needs are in critical operational need where the water quality is very highly demanded. But in other cases, we use reclaimed water in our processes. So that is one avenue we've been able to make serious gains and also protect the environment further. Then on energy utilization, on fuel consumption, and also clean energy, the situation of the plants within the reach of the mining footprint and also the run pad makes it possible for us to burn less fuel in transporting the ore to the process plants. And in the process plants, all the processes in the process plants are electrically driven, not using that's combustible fuels. So we don't have emissions within the process plant, except where we need dozers and excavators to do minor work. But for the conveyors are all electric driven conveyors. So once the ore is transported to the run pad, it's all electrical systems. So emissions there are almost zero. Then we also have a CNG plant established on site that generates power for us. When we started up, we had diesel generators, but as time progressed, we have installed additional 3 CNG units, which is cleaner energy. And this energy helps us to drive our conveyor systems within the process plant and also power our official administrative processes and also the domestic needs in the accommodation. So in terms of energy, yes, Segilola is making strong strides. We're also looking at how to improve the performance of the diesel we're using on site, which is currently ongoing as a facility that we don't stop in trying to improve our systems. We look at better ways to optimize the energy we're using and also make it cleaner for the environment. We're also looking at reducing our emission footprint, general greenhouse emissions. So all these are actions we take on a constant basis, and we are looking for better ways to improve the environment.
Thank you so much. It's quite interesting to know that Segilola is compliant with environmental issues, and you're taking the strong strides in ensuring energy conservation. And so my next question is then to Madhurii. When it comes to mining operations or mining complaints and the community, there's usually that conflict, a whole lot of issues around their operations and coming to terms to ensure that things work smoothly. And so over the years, I know you've been with Segilola for about 8 years now. So what has been Segilola's approach to fostering meaningful community engagement around mining operations? Did you get that, Madhurii?
Oh, yes, I did. Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Like you mentioned, yes, I've been with the organization for close to 8 years. I've had the honor of being with the project since inception in 2017. And one of the key insights in our approach to our impact in the community, basically on our approach to fostering meaningful community engagement, was inclusivity and sustainability. That's why this kind of topic is usually very, very interesting for me in particular and us in general, because we're intentional about sustainability in our organization. And you may ask how with inclusivity. Now, we ensure that there's maximum stakeholder consultation and participatory engagement. Inclusivity and ensuring the broad spectrum of community interests are considered. When I say broad spectrum, we don't. One of the first things we did when we came on board was before we signed, before we were given our mining list to go ahead and mine, was you are required by the Federal Ministry of Mines, that's which the Regulation and Act, to sign a CDA with the community. And one of the things we requested from the community is to have a committee rather than just the king deciding. It's the entire committee. Now, a broad spectrum which includes kings, the queen, the chief, the olori, the head of women affairs, that's Yaoloja. You have even, we went as far as the herbalist, the youth in the community, educated people. So in each community, we have 13-man committee. We refer to them as the CDA committee, who are the people that sit down and discuss anything related to the community. During the process of our community development agreement, this is an agreement that outlines the benefits given to the host communities from the company, which I'm sure you're very well aware of. We ensure that these CDA committees were representative of all different groups in the community, especially those that are most likely would be marginalized. That's the women, like we know. Some of the things that we've factored in was cultural, that we've noticed that really went down for us was cultural governance. You can never take away cultural governance, no matter how much you try to look at it. It's important to acknowledge the role of, and the importance of cultural governance. And like I said, one of the things we ensured is after the CDA committee, the king endorses those people. So if you have issues, the committee addresses it. In fact, we don't even have just the CDA committee. We also have the engagement committee, which I might come back to later. The engagement committee doesn't do the same function as the CDA committee. They are responsible for anything employment related in the community. So that rather than the members of the community going to the king with CVs, with grievances on employment, you have the engagement committee. Now, the engagement committee comprises of somebody from our HR department, a representative from our HR department, 2 representatives from community department, and then 5 representatives from the host community. So you have, beg your pardon, 6 representatives, 2 from each community for our engagement committee. So at every given time, we have people that are ready to help with resolving situations. I can also say that SRL engages them via a structured consultation, town hall meetings, focus groups, discussions to ensure transparency at every given time, because we've come to understand that transparency is very important. While there is also the need for addressing grievances, managing grievances, the need for transparency, I can't speak, you can never ring much bell on it, because once there is no transparency, there are always rumors flying around. So that committee ensures that information is disseminated as soon as possible within our host community. We ensure that we maintain, open communication channels to address concern, gather feedbacks, incorporate community perspectives into our project planning, like our CDA committee. We don't just sit there and say, this is what we want to give you. We sit down, we have discussion, we dissect requests, and then if you're not going to do it, you tell them, this is why this is not going to be done. Now, one of the things we ensured we did from the beginning with our CDAs, ensuring that majority of our CDAs, that's community development agreements, are sustainable. So we've got the scholarship, we've got the women empowerment program, we've got skill acquisition program, amongst other things. I can also say that SRL has formalized its commitment to community development through this agreement. That's the CDA, and which is required by the law. Now, we've gone a step further also, not just the CDA. We have 3 projects we run through the community, 3 major projects we run through our communities. You have the CDA, which is compulsory by law. We have the CSR, where we see if there's somewhere where we need to meet up with the CDA that it has not been captured in the CDA. And then we have the LRP. The LRP is targeted at our project affected persons. You might say the entire community is project affected persons. When we say project affected persons, in the sense that project affected persons are people or landowners or asset owners who had land and farm within the mine's footprint. So our livelihood restoration plan is targeted at these people. We've also got employment, which I'll leave our HRM to speak on, and skill development. You will remember I mentioned the 2 committees already, the CDA committee and the engagement committee. So the engagement committee usually helps, like I said, supports with that. With our CDA and also our youth empowerment program, we've got vocational skills, skill acquisition, training programs, equip the individuals with relevant skills for mining related or even alternative livelihood, which will bring me to our livelihood programs. Our livelihood programs, we've introduced what you may call a market garden or consistent farming in the community by bringing in tomatoes to a particular set. And then we've also introduced the entire value chain of fish farming to our project affected persons also. This consists of, when I say the entire value chain, you have aquaculture production, fish processing, transportation, wholesale and retail marketing. In fact, interestingly enough, just last week, we recently completed a training on workshop on entrepreneurial and digital skills development for rural women in nano business for our International Women's Day. So those are some of the things that we do. So while we are even putting out sustainable projects, we're also ensuring that it's not something that is left behind, but also there's a continuation to it. So, like I said, the training went down really, really well with them. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, it's always just interesting to listen to you when you speak, Madhurii. You said quite a lot of things, and it's always glad to know how much Segilola is doing in terms of, corporate social responsibility. You mentioned inclusivity, you mentioned sustainability, which I would also term as collaboration. I think you have that power of collaboration. I mean, you working with the king, with the women, with everybody together, that speaks to the power of collaboration. And it shows that you're not just doing what you're doing just to get, your own share of the minerals alone. You are into the, you are in the heart of the community people, into the ensuring the health of the community, which is quite interesting. Now, talking about the sustainability that you mentioned, I'm going to direct the next question to Benson Olayinka, and to speak on the most significant sustainability challenges. Madhurii spoke on sustainability quite a lot, and she mentioned it. So what are the challenges specific to gold mining, and how is Segilola addressing all of these issues? Benson.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon once again. Okay, before I even speak on sustainability challenges in gold mining and how we at Segilola have been able to surmount challenges. So Segilola, basically, the motto of what we do, the mission, or basically the mission of Segilola when we started our project was to mine and explore for gold in a safe and environmental responsible manner. That's one. We also, another of our mission was to ensure sustainable development and bring prosperity to our host communities, and at the same time deliver operational excellence, yielding superior stakeholders return. With this in mind, it should tell you that sustainability has been at the core of our operations. We have an holistic view of sustainability in every sphere of our operations. Now, like David and Madhurii have said earlier, before we even started the project, we did what we call an EIA, or ESIA actually, an environmental social impact assessment, which looks at every aspect of the project, the pre, the operation phase, and even after we are done. So we have looked at all the possible impacts that the project might have on the host community, the environment, and on the people, both internal and external. We also did what we call a materiality assessment. And like Madhurii also mentioned, there's also a need assessment for each of the communities that we find ourselves, to look at what they would need, what their grievance or complaint might be, what they would be requiring from us, and also look at the government regulatory aspect of it. So basically, we covered all aspects of our stakeholders management, which Madhurii is also managed. We covered areas of our stakeholders complaint. So with this in mind, we already drew up what we call our material topics. So we have 6 of them. It's very similar to what we refer to in ESG as the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profits. So it's very similar, because every investor, every business is in it to make a profit, at the same time ensuring that we are managing resources in a sustainable manner, that is, using it now and also leaving it for future generations. So these 6 material topics we had in mind covered our people, our environment, our health and safety, our social and community aspects, then what we call corporate governance, and also our cultural governance. I believe Madhurii has mentioned that with the inclusiveness of the traditional rulers, our host community leaders, our focus group, like she said, the women, the youth, and every other focus group we find in our host community. So with this in mind, We already knew that in mining generally, mining or the extractive industries is associated mostly with environmental issues, the extractive industry. So the major extractive industry we have in Nigeria, we have the petroleum industry, we have the mining industry, and under mining we say a bit of gold, a bit of cement, and other minerals we have. So the major issues we have around the mining industries is the environmental issues, sometimes cultural issues because you are dealing with host communities, you are dealing with people, health and safety, because when you mix people with heavy machineries, you mix people with environmental factors. You need to take in line the health of the workers and the health of the external stakeholder, which is the community. So those are the three main challenges we identified as a mining company. And now for challenges, like David said earlier, so since we have already understood what our impact could be on or what our environmental footprint would be basically, we already had all that in mind, and in the design stage, we had considered all those risks at impact during designing and already put mitigative plans in line, which we have been able to surmount those challenges. For example, when we started the project, we already knew that in that area we were going to be producing our own power. So we brought in diesel generating plants. And we already knew that diesel is going to be giving out more emissions. We switched to CNG. That's an example of surmounting those challenges. We switched to CNG in 2021, which was at the beginning of our production year. And even after we switched to 2021, we are even optimizing our power system to be able to even reduce the emission and at the same time save costs to what we sustainability analysts call double materiality. So it's a cost saving initiative at the same time reducing emissions that is going out to the environment. On the water aspect, like David mentioned, our processes is a closed circuit production process. What I mean by closed circuit is the water that we use returns back. When we use water in our process plants, the water and the slurry from the process plants goes to what we call our TMF, a tailing management system, where the remnant slurry goes to. From that TMF, we now reclaim that water back into our process plant. So we have already reduced our water withdrawal from the natural environment. The water we use is 80% from our TMF, meaning that between 15 to 25% is what we withdraw from the natural environment. For the groundwater, we don't even use groundwater. The only way we interact with groundwater is the more we go in depth in our mind, we encounter groundwater, which we now pump out. That's what it meant by groundwater. So we don't even use groundwater at all. So, and the surface water, we just use between 15 to 25%. 75 to 85% of our water use is reclaimed. It's in the reclaim process. So those are the two ways we have been able to surmount environmental challenges. Like I said, the major challenge. For the cultural and social challenges, Madhurii has already mentioned that we already have a goodwill with the community. We already have good interaction, good engagement with them. Our engagement meetings increase year on year because of the interaction we have. It has helped our social license to operate, like Madhurii said. It has reduced causes of grievance. And even when we have issues of complaint from the community, we have a policy where Madhurii's team are easy to assess and they can pour out what it is they have what their grievances are. And it's always resolved positively majority of the time, like Madhurii's team can give more instances to. Then also what we call our cultural governance basically is how we bring in the inclusiveness you mentioned, bring in the local leadership system, the traditional system into decision making for the benefit of the community. Like you remember, I mentioned that one of the missions is to ensure good cordiality with the local communities, improve their local economy. So basically, those two challenges that you asked, we have been able to surmount them with ensuring that those mitigative actions we have put in the beginning, be it in the environment side or the social side. Like for the social side, we already have signed CDAs, community development agreements with our host communities. We already have programs that we have for the host communities, be it under CSR under the CDA or the LRP, the Livelihood Restoration Projects. And under this, there are a lot of programs that are there. We have the Segilola Women Initiative Program. We have the scholarship program for secondary school. We have the farming program. We have the youth empowerment scheme. There are a lot. Like last year, for example, we were able to renovate the community high school in the area. Also, we renovated the school lab. There are a lot of projects. I know Madhurii will be able to shed more light on this, and also Fergus will also to shed more light on what we have been doing around the employment, local employment, even from the host community. Currently, the company has been able to upscale a lot of local content, whereby we currently have just 1% expat rate in the company, just to show you the trust and trust and development of local content. So for challenges, we have been able to surmount them with initiatives and plans that we had foreseen in the beginning of the project.
Thank you so much, Benson. I mean, one of the things you really hammered on, which Madhurii also mentioned, is the cultural governance, which is quite great to know. So I think your conversation naturally flows now to our HR, and that's again, excuse me, and that's yes, Oluwaseun. Yeah, so Oluwaseun, Benson also mentioned some of the things that Segilola is doing. So I would like to just shed more light on how Segilola integrates sustainability, flowing from the previous conversation, into the HR policies, especially in attracting and retaining talent.
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to say we've been able to integrate sustainability into HR policy in several ways. But significantly, we are trying to do that to impact, the retention and attraction of our employee. And the first thing we're able to do is to lay more emphasis on ethical and responsible practice, just like my colleague has already mentioned. So in their various fields. And one of these is, our commitment to responsible sourcing, capacity building, and ethical practice, which is a core component of our operation. So being able to do this, it has helped us to be able to, create a lot of policies that guide our operation. And these policies, because when everybody comes into an organization, there must be a rules and regulation that guides their conduct, because everybody comes from a different organization with different culture. So we try to let them understand what our culture is, then what are the rules and regulations, what are the do's and don'ts. So this we do during our onboarding session, and before we hand them over to their respective HOD, which continue on that. Like I want to mention this, we have different workforce generation. So there are generation X, we have different generation, but the generation we have now, we try to align the current generation into our operation. So that's why some of our policies, some of our rules, we've made some flexible such that it will be able to accommodate changes within this workforce generation. And this has made it, very interesting for everybody to see Segilola as a place where they can work and they can be more fulfilled. Another thing we've been able to do is the open door policy. But the open door policy has given room for everybody to be able to view their opinion about how the organization can improve. So every offices in this place, you can easily go into every of the offices and, whatever you feel can be done to improve our product, our operations, then you mention it to the process holder. So it's quite interesting, and everybody has been put in place such that they are part of the decision maker. The decision making does not come from the top alone. So it comes like from the HR. We have a joint JCC, we call it Joint Consultative Committee. This is where we have the representative of all the departments, even the community representative are in the JCC, just for us to put on the table what is going to affect, what is going to make everybody live and work together in unity, and we achieve our purpose here. So this has helped us in the area of diversity and inclusion, because everybody has to be involved. Now, let me talk little on this diversity and inclusion. Our organization has been a place where we have people of different culture. We have the expatriate, we have the locals. A lot of locals are here with us too. So we try to ensure that everybody culture is merged together for us to be able to achieve whatever we are achieving here. Like I said, decision making, everybody take part in that too. So nobody is excluded. Whatever you're bringing to the table is going to be everybody looked at it together. We look at the pro and cons, like I said. So we focus so much on this diversity and inclusion, and ensure that everybody is well represented, both gender. Because the nature of our job here, even looking at the environment where we are, does not accommodate, you having something which is going to be like a distraction to you. But we are planning on putting in place some measure to accommodate the mothers and their children. So I think the discussion is actually going on what we can do to do that, so that it doesn't look like we are putting them aside. They still continue with their normal jobs. So this is one of the things we are putting in place. And Madhurii has mentioned about it, the alignment with the community value, which I want to say. Community is our host here. They are the one, the three host community are the one that, actually like our landlord here. So we have to accommodate them. And accommodating them is based on whatever feedback we are getting through the community relation manager. In the area of our employment now, before we can push out any employment employment advert, we need to speak with the community and stakeholder manager. Then she is going to help us to push this to the king and the community leaders. Do they have anybody within the community who can serve in this capacity? Then when we don't get people from the community, that is when we can now go ahead to put that on our other platform of recruitment platform. So this is where we have accommodated the community to. Then all of these are what has made us, to be able to win the award. If I may want to say this, we got an award last year. We got 2 awards last year. One is HR CIPM HR Oscar Award. And all of this has been, considered before we were able to get that award. So we got the HR Best Practice Award in the mining industry here in Nigeria, where we have people like, I don't want to mention company, the big players here, but we were able to win this award. Then again, we won a global award, which is the Mining in Daba Award from the Responsible Resourcing, Labor Category Award too. That was the same thing last year. So we've gone far for us to be able to do this award. But one thing I want to say about this that we've been able to do is that for the time being, for the few years we have been in the system, we've been able to work on the capacity building of our employee. Majorly, we were trying to see how we can bring in a female, to do the work that are mainly, done by the female, by the male, which is the area, the technical area that are dominated by the male, the male. Now we've been able to improve and build up some of our employees which are female, to the extent that some of them are now truck driver. Some of them are driving the excavator. Some of them are working as a supervisor, the cone crusher, and these are areas where on a good day use on norms you see the male working in this. So we've been able to train them. We've been able to train them, and they are doing perfectly in this area. Then our investment on education and training is huge. Majority of the HR budget has been mainly on training our employee. Almost all the employee have been booked for a training this year. And this training gap and training need, we get this during our performance appraisal. And during the performance appraisal, the HOD try to identify the area in which you think this person can develop. Then we'll begin to work on that and we book them for the training. And at the end of the year, we want to assess them and see the impact of the training to evaluate if the training has actually achieved what we're doing. Then succession planning is one thing, just like my colleague Benson was saying. Benson said that we have currently now 99% of our employees are locals, while we have just 1% who are the expatriate. The expatriate percentage were actually more than this before now, but we've been able to do this. How did we achieve this? We set up a succession planning because the expatriates were meant to be here for some times, then transfer the knowledge. So what are we doing? We were able to attach everybody to all the expatriates, even to all the managers, to all the senior positions. We're able to attach all, one or two employee to each and everybody, so that you'll be able to understudy what everybody is doing, so that by the time the time is getting to the appointed time, maybe we want them to take over, then we won't struggle to have this knowledge, to have these people take over this position. For example, I want to say this to you now. Currently now, we have the first mine manager who is a Nigerian. Initially, we've had about 3 mine managers who are expatriate, but currently now we have a mine manager who is a Nigerian. Within 1 year of his joining SRL, he has been able to get to that position. What did we do? Then we did a closer, monitoring and closer, should I say, coaching and mentoring now in this process. And we're able to put him through a lot of training so that he'll be able to meet up to the task. And I can say to you that during the time he has taken up this position, we've had a lot of, improve on our performance. And this is what we think Nigerians won't be able to do. As I am talking to you, I came into this organization as an HRBP, not as an HR manager. I was working as an HR manager where I was, but I have to take up this position because I wanted to be in an industry that is new. And I took up this position. But today, I am working as the HR manager. And I can say categorically that within the short time, we've been able to win all of this award because of the initiative and labor initiative we've been able to put on ground again. And I want to say there's one of our employees too who came in as a project delivery manager, but currently now is a deputy GM here, working in the capacity, close with the general manager, who we hope that in the future to come, he can work as a general manager, then we can have Nigerian doing this. So these are what we are doing. Then we are working with Madhurii, the community, to see that few ones among the community that we can help to nurture or, build them and train them for them to be able to work at this senior level, which I hope that very soon we should get to that stage. Lastly, I want to talk about the remuneration. We've been able to do something, and this is the first of its kind in the industry. Remuneration, we've had a structure. Initially we were working with structure of some FMCG, some companies, oil and gas, but now we've been able to set up a structure for the mining industry, which I can tell you some industries, some consultants are trying to reach out to us now to know how they can do that. And this is something that took us it took a lot from us for us to be able to get to the stage. And currently, our people are happy. One of the things is I want to be sure that our people are happy. And once they are not happy, then we know that we need to do something. So, and anybody you see who is a staff, who is an employee of SROL now, like I want to tell you, on even employee attrition rate, labor attrition rate, we have currently less than 1%. We've already have people want to remain in our employment, and all of these initiatives that we put in place are what make this possible for us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for this thoughtful insight you just shared about Segilola. You can see me smiling and then putting up emoji of clapping and giving you flowers for all the amazing things that you do and for the award. So I think you deserve it and even more. When I hear organizations making the workplace safe for women, I mean, it's always exciting. I'm a woman and I always love to be in a place where I feel welcomed and accepted as a woman. You've said quite a lot of things. You talked about the Segilola Women Initiative Program, which is quite amazing. And so because of that, I'm taking this conversation back to Madhurii. we're still on sustainability, and we've talked more about the organization. And so going back to you, Madhurii, because I know you work quite a lot with the community. So can you share specific examples of how Segilola sustainability efforts have positively impacted the local communities that you work with?
Sure. You're asking me to talk about my favorite subjects or what like that I like to talk about. So yeah, I can talk for a very long time. But I'm going to make it very brief. Like I said, if you remember, one of the things I mentioned is that we have CDA, we have CSR, and we have LRP. I think I expatiated a little more on the LRP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk more about the CDs, what we've done, what we're doing, and then also our CSR, some of our major CSR. And in our CDA aspect, we'll usually, one of the things we look at is education and capacity building. Now, this education covers scholarship, which Benson mentioned, but it's not just secondary school, it's secondary and tertiary. Over time, initially we started with 26 amongst all the host communities, but now that's double for each community. So each community has 10, 10, 10. That's 30. So yes, for tertiary and 30 for secondary. So you can see that with our reviewing of our CDA last year, we increased the number because at the end of the day, it's important to nurture students, to nurture them, because one of our aims or one of our goals or targets at the end of the day is some of these beneficiaries of the scholarship should be able to come back and work with SRO, especially if they're in the STEM field. We have the Women Initiative Program. We don't just believe in handing out cash. I think I mentioned that what we did in International Women's Day, we did a entrepreneurial and digital training skill development for rural women. We don't just do, like I said, we don't believe in giving out cash because cash dissipates, it disappears. So what we've done is we usually purchase items that, so we do a focus group like Benson mentioned, and the focus group, we ask, what do the women want? We do research, we go out in the communities, the CLOs assist with that. That's the community liaison officers of each community. They assist with that. Well, along with the engagement committee. Engagement committee are not just tasked with employment for the company. They are also tasked with monitoring our programs that are going on in the community. That's some of, like the Women Empowerment Program. With scholarship beneficiaries, they help with ensuring that there's a first exam in the school before we do our own exam. So they have a lot of work doing. So monitoring, support with ensuring that the CDA implementation is done correctly. They assist with that. So with the Women Initiative Program, we've given out crushers, kernel crushers, oil processors, grinding machine. Those are the things. So they come back to us with what they need. And sometimes, like I said, it's important to also listen. Sometimes they come back and they just believe they want these things. It's not a need, and they believe they want. So it's also important not to just brush it aside, but also to ask them, why do they need it? Are they capable? And those kind of questions. So there's always discussions going on at every point in time. Our youth empowerment program, which is one of our favorites, we started with seminars. Now from seminars, we upscaled to skill acquisition and vocational training. About 2-3 years ago, what we did was baking, tie-dye. We're glad to say some of them have continued the process, or not all of them, some of them have continued. Last year, we did furniture making, there was confectionery making, there was fashion design, there was shoemaking. So, like I said, those are things that I will look in the community and say, okay, this is something they'll need. But rather than also just putting it out there, we also have a discussion with the community and say, is this something that will work? And then we'll say, no, take this out. Let's go with this, and then we'll work together with that. Now, from that, we found out that while the skill acquisition was good and it's a good initiative, there's also a need for, like I said from beginning, one of our major aims is sustainability, continuation. And not just sustainability and continuation, but also the economic aspect of things, generating income for the beneficiary. So they sat down again and said, oh, they wanted us for the next youth empowerment program to be companies should provide Okada for that bike, motorbikes, like we all know it's for the beneficiaries. And because SRL is particular about safety, and we all know the way bikes are, we now said no, bikes will not work. However, what we've introduced is the mini buses, which we refer to as Korokwe in the Nigerian term. So now right now we're by the end of this month, we're going to be introducing 9 mini buses to our host communities, 3 per community, yes, a beneficiary. So it's a long process, but at the end of the day, we're always looking at not just sustainability, safety also, and economical aspect of all this. So there's sustainability, and it's also generating income with our projects that we have put out in the community. Long term, not just short term. You can always come back and say, I'll give you another example. The road work, that the road repair that we're supposed to do was supposed to be asphalt. But we sat down, we looked at it and said, if you do asphalt, you know how long you tie the road in like 2 years. You start having craters, and you start having. So we now sat down and said, I think since we have some of the materials, what we can do is interlocking. So at the moment, one of our communities is benefiting with a major interlocking work going on right now. So, like I said, we're very intentional about sustainability and not just long this thing. So, those are some of the things that we've done. So, I will also touch on like you heard, some of our projects that are impacting on the community. One of our favorites is our healthcare initiative. Now, the SRL medical outreach, we started in 2023. And 2023 was fantastic. But last year, we decided to upscale again on our health care outreach. And we've done, while we're renovating some of the community health centers, we've rolled out health programs, the disease prevention campaigns. There's the malaria, there's the cervical cancer. Those are some of the ones we've done in the past 2 years that I'm mentioning. We've also rolled out the tuberculosis campaign and test. So not just rolling out those campaigns, but also going as far as getting them screening for cervical cancer, amongst other things, educating them on it. Those are some of the health programs we've done out there. Last year, we conducted our second medical outreach, where we provided consultations, advanced diagnostics, medications, and even went as far as scheduled surgical procedures, which we've already completed all of them. Now, beyond the treatment, we even focused on the health promotion and disease prevention to support long-term wellness. And last year, we gave out 98 pairs of reading glasses after some of them had done the test, and then also some did we had 17 eye surgeries last year. We had 47 general surgeries, and I mean cutting across board, like hernia, fibroid. So it's not just small ones. So major surgeries. We also had a chronic care follow-up for the people that are 85 above. That's the elderly. We also distributed medical supplies and partnered with local health agencies to improve the healthcare access. We're going to be rolling out another one this year. Hopefully, we can make it even bigger than what we did last year. But like I said, it's like you can see, we are very intentional about project. And now this one I'm mentioning as CSR project, not CDA. So these are CSR projects. We have the infrastructural development also, which we do in the community, which I've mentioned the road rehabilitation of 2 major roads. That's the one from a state road and also a local government community road that we're actually working on at the moment. We've even done electrification projects in our communities, which were previously lacking, because one of the communities came to us and said they usually get power supply from this community. However, whenever they have an argument or they fight, those also go and detach them from the transformer. So they requested for transformer. So we provided transformer, did everything, installation, not just purchasing, but the entire installation, powering, and ensure working with the power authority to ensure that it was powered, which now they have power. And then we've also provided solar street lights for one of our host communities. I think I've mentioned our LRP programs already and the value chain of how we've done it. So like I said, a lot of this, we do a lot of projects. In fact, we even go as, Benson may speak on it also, or on our environmental stewardship of what we do. At the moment, there's a mine closure plan and then there's a rehabilitation plan, but we've already started some mini rehabilitation plan. And last year, 2023, we did our first cocoa rehabilitation project of handing out cocoa seedlings to farmers, not just the seedlings, the chemicals and everything they will use, the knapsack and everything they will use for people that already have farms. So this year we are hoping to scale up not just cocoa rehabilitation, but also oil palm rehabilitation, because at the end of the day, we are about sustainability in SRO. So a lot of these ones are CSR also, not CDA. So like I said, a lot of times where we see that there's a shortcoming in the CDA or we didn't capture most things, the CSR comes in and then takes over from there. Now, what's his name? David mentioned water conservation and monitoring projects, but one of the things I think he made, probably I should reiterate on, is one of the things we are very particular, because we're particular about environment. Before the commencement of project, we've been doing water monitoring before the commencement of project. So our water monitoring, and it's every month. You can imagine before the commencement of project, even before the conception and everything, we'll be monitoring the water up till today every month. We ensure there's water monitoring at the end of every month so that in case there's anything, we pick it up immediately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madhurii. And it's been quite interesting to know all of these things that you do in your organization. And it's glad to know that one thing that you're big on is sustainability. And there's one word that you used while you were speaking, and that is intentionality, that you're quite intentional about the things you do. And that's why you can easily conduct the needs assessments to ensure that you understand the needs of these community members and not just to give them money. So again, well done to your team and to the organization. And so, yes, you mentioned the environmental impact, and I'm going to direct this question to David. Now, why you spoke earlier as well, you talked about the initiatives to minimize the environmental impact of your operation. So, but how does Segilola, and let me use Madhurii's acronym, SRO, SROL, but there's how she pronounced it. So how does the organization monitor and mitigate the environmental footprint of its activities?
Okay. On the footprints, we monitor the impacts from our operations on the footprints. Now, how we do that is it includes active monitoring, which Madhurii did mention one, which is the water quality monitoring. So now we monitor within our immediate footprint, which is where we are operational. We also monitor within the community. Now, the community monitoring is more like watching out for them to see if there's any change, any negative impact that could impose danger to them. So by the time we're monitoring, we can give early warnings and say, oh, this water quality is not good for you to use. You can abstain from it. But so far, we've been keeping an eye on it. The quality has been consistent, and there's no threats at the moment. So we also monitor our air quality. We also monitor our diesel consumption, because we want to know if we're using too much and if there's need for us to cut down on the diesel consumption. We can also do a reduction program which will help us manage our fuel consumption and furthermore reduce our greenhouse emissions and better improve the air quality. So we have lots of monitoring programs that cut across, including biodiversity, which is the wildlife within that's the communities and also the environment. So we monitor every year. We do the ecological survey, which is yearly. So we come in, we check for the biodiversity density, which includes the plants and the animals within the environment. Yes, we do not have direct interference with them, because before we came in, this place was mostly farmland and secondary forests. So, but what we've done so far is we've documented what we met on sites. We also consistently monitored how much they are depleting, because around us we have lots of activities going on, which includes lumbering of the trees. So we try to educate them too on why they shouldn't do this, why they shouldn't cut down trees, why they shouldn't burn bushes, why they shouldn't. So we go as much as we can to train and inform them, also working with the community department to engage with the stakeholders. Where we are currently operating as our immediate footprints, what we've done so far is we know what we came up with. We also know that after we are done with the mining, we are going to restore the environment. So part of what we did is that we had the restoration program signed and documented. So that restoration program will guide us on what to do at the end of the mine life. So as of today, we keep eye on all the topsoil we had on site. We've recovered the topsoil. We've kept them somewhere. So after we're done with mining, we restore the environment. Also grow more trees. Like she mentioned, we've done the cocoa program before, and we are going to also initiate more programs either for the community directly or on our immediate footprint, which will help us to restore the environments we mined from. So for mitigations, it's an ongoing program. We do not have a deadline to stop our mitigation. Mitigations are evolving because the mine is dynamic in terms of growth, in terms of production. So the mitigation program is always there, it's always evolving, and till the end of the mine life, we'll constantly watch out for things that could go wrong and also inform the community if there are dangers coming.
All right, thank you so much, David. So before we call it a day, I'm going to direct this question again to Oluwaseun. So in what ways how is, or let me rephrase this to say, how is Segilola upskilling its workforce to meet the demand of sustainable innovation?
All right. Thank you. First, I still want to say, just like I've mentioned, what we do currently is like we are investing more into training and development. Like a huge part of our budget has gone into this. And this year we are starting on a good note because we already in a conversation with some institutes so that our employees, especially our technical employees, can be integrated into the institute training plan. So like HeduMine is in Canada, so we're already with them. Hopefully by the end of this week, we should be able to complete that. Because most of the technical training that is needed for this operation, you can see in this institute. We have done something before now that some of our team of our technical guys, especially the mine technical guys, they've traveled to Ghana to visit some sites, some gold mine, just for them to see the way things operate in that environment so that we can bring that exactly into this place. We've done that sometimes, and we hope to do that, more of that, maybe starting from this year again. All things being equal, we hope to do more of that. So with this, I know that a lot of exposure, we come up. So our employee will be able to see more of what is needed for them to perform well in that role. Then another thing that, like I said, is succession planning. This is the way we can do it. It's just for us to let our people know that this project is not going to be undertaken. It's going to be forever under the control of the expatriate. We have to take the on by the bull. It is our project. So, and they have to be the one that will meet up with the challenge of taking up some of this technical role. So, and by doing this, we've been able to, attach them, just like I said, to all the subject matter experts. So this is going to help us again so that we can continue, with the knowledge transfer. It doesn't just end by the time the expatriate leave. Then one thing that we just put in our plan now is the coaching and mentoring, which we are going to go take it more serious this year, unlike the way it has been. It has to be in such a way that every of the senior employee who are supervisors will be put in a position that they would be able to stand independently without the assistance of the manager. So in case there's a need to be like a shift, or maybe there could be a reason why we have to move some of our employees to other projects somewhere else, so we can have people who can still take it up. Then most importantly is the one I've mentioned, which is empowering our women to be more involved in the profession that are being dominated by the men in this industry. So we are working very well. Like, we want to do more of that, not even on the staff, but we want to identify the ones that are community, those who are indigenous of the community that work with us. So we are going to work with Madhurii on this to ensure that we're able to achieve this. Because we have a CDA, like Madhurii said, and we have a percentage that is expected for us to percentage of our staff who are supposed to be from the community. And we want to meet up with that again. Then one thing I want to say that we've been able to do, which I didn't mention again, is that, we've been able to do like our internship program. There are some people from the community who are in doing different courses, who are in different universities, but they are community dwellers, they are indigenous. So we've been able to help them in their CWES just to absorb them and spend maybe the 4-6 month, 1 year compulsory internship program. So they've been able to do that here too. So, and I think this is going to help us, and we want to maintain on this too. So by the time majority of them are done with the academics, so they can easily integrate into our operation here. So it won't be much of a problem for us to begin to look out for people who do not have the understanding of the whole process. So, and I think with all of this, we should be able to get a huge number of our employees that are well skilled to meet up with the operation requirements. And I think with that, we should be able to meet up for that. And one thing I am still going to discuss, maybe we're still trying to focus on management, is the graduate internship program. And we will still get there. We've been able to do some in the area of the NYSC that we absorb. We've been able to absorb over 30 NYSC number to NYSC. We have a very good relationship with the NYSC management. So at every point in time, we make a request and they come in. And mostly why people want to come and serve in Segilola is because they feel that when they come to Segilola, we are going to be retained. And we've been able to do a lot of good work in that. A lot of staff who started their career right from here, even in the technical position too, such that when you see a member of our team who work in Segilola, I don't want to say technical, work in Segilola, by the time you see him, what is being deposited in him is what would have been within a short time, maybe within 1, 2, 3 years, is they can take up the role of somebody who has been in the profession for about 10 years. So that's the way we are doing it. So it's actually a tough time for them, but we make them understand this is what we need to do, because in few years to come, we want you to take up this role. And we have been doing that, and it's been a success. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving people like me, I mean, when I say people like me, women, that space to excel in a male-dominated sector like the mining sector. Thank you. And it's been about 70 minutes of insightful conversations with the Segilola team. And personally, I've gained quite a lot. And so before we call it a day finally, I would just like everyone to take 1 minute to just share or to talk about the key takeaways for companies. I mean, people who listen to you or who will be listening to this conversation to see how they can also strengthen their ESG practices in the mining sector. Again, let me just rephrase the question. What are the key takeaways for companies looking to strengthen their ESG practices in the mining sector? So I think I'll start with Benson.
Okay, thank you, Felicia. Good afternoon once again. Okay, so for companies in the industry, in the extractive industries generally, in the mining industry, so it is key that before you go into the industry, before you go into your operational environment, it is key that you have an understanding of what your impact will be, of what your footprint will be, both on the environment side, both on the social side. So once that has been identified, it will be very easy for you to have pre-planned mitigative actions. For example, like Madhurii said, I know she will still reiterate, it's very important you have good interaction with your host community. It gives you the social license to operate. It is very key, like David said, to have an understanding of what the pre-existing conditions of the environment are. And when you already do your compliance monitoring in line in the course of your operations, it will help you understand and the trend and whatever deviations and how to mitigate such. So it is very key to have a good understanding of what you have the operations before you go into that environment, into that industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I totally agree with you as well, too. I mean, before we venture into anything, it is important to, okay, yeah, I just got distracted by that. It is important to understand the business we're going into. Thank you, Benson. David, over to you. In one.
Taking a cue from Benson, I would say for prospective investors or new entry into the mining sector, it's one to adopt a good strategy, have a plan in place, but most especially your plan should make room to respect people, respect the environment, and also respect the governance structure when it comes to regulations. Once you can factor in these three areas, your sustainability is also assured, because if you have a conflict with people, you have crises, you have grievances, and it will affect your operations. If you have issues with the environment, they got clamp down on you, and your operations will be stalled. And the moment you stop complying with regulatory expectations, you don't do your monitoring programs, you don't do your studies, you don't obtain your governance license from your EIA and other structures that are set in place, both from states and local governments, then your operation will also be halted. So in everything, it's adopt a culture of respect, look out for some pitfalls which exist in the regulations in Nigeria. For instance, we have multiple regulatory limits, but how we've succeeded as Segilola is that we look out for the most stringent regulatory compliance limits, and we adopt those stringent ones. By the time we comply with those stringent limits, every limits falls into place. So the best way to get it right is just respect the system, respect the structures in place. Then you can have a sustainable system.
Thank you very much, David. I mean, we should respect the system. Thank you so much. Oluwaseun, over to you.
All right, thank you. I think what I want to say most importantly, is the capacity building area. I would want to say that for any company, for the companies in the industry, more attention should be placed on investing more on the people, on the employees. So, and just like my colleague has said, there should be a plan in place. And the plan that I want to mention here is such a plan that we put whoever the subject matter expert, whether it's patriot or national, who is subject matter expert, their KPI should be tied to the number of the employee they train. So, and by the time their job description is going to be drawn, it has to be drawn in such a way that training should take a very good percentage of that job description. When I say training, the company can actually save money and let them put, deposit more on the lockout. So I think this will be able to sustain, what we are discussing here in terms of the employee retention and attraction, because every employee wants to stay in an environment where they feel the value will be added to them. So if this can be done, I think this will go a long way. So investing hugely on capacity building will go a very long way. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, the man of the people. And yes, it is capacity building is key to employee retention and attrition. Thank you. And to the last woman sitting, Madhurii. I mean, you were the first woman sitting that I called, so now the last woman sitting. Can we have your thoughts? You're muted.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Well, an organization that is looking to do this, what I will advise is that any organization must foster long-term positive relationships with local communities. It's very important. Building trust, building transparency, embedding sustainability, inclusivity, and community development into its operation while promoting economic and social well-being is paramount. While doing this, one of the major takeaway that should be here is while respecting cultural governance, which is paramount in where we're operating, in like Africa, cultural governance is very important. However, do not take out inclusivity. It must be incorporated especially those marginalized groups. Because if you're going to get an uprising, it's definitely from the youth and the women. So while respecting cultural governance, always ensure that marginalized groups are incorporated into discussions also. That's particularly the women and the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I want to say a big thanks to everyone for sharing your beautiful thoughts on what you do in Segilola. I mean, my book is quite full. I've written quite a lot, from the conversations on how to deliver operational excellence. These are the things that Segilola do, to the giant strides you are taking in terms of energy conservation, to inclusivity, just like Madhurii mentioned, to cultural governance, to all the livelihood programs that you have, to the ethical, responsible practices, to the centralized decision making, which I found quite interesting that Oluwaseun mentioned. I mean, to succession planning, to the constant CDA reviews, to intentionality about sustainability. One key word was resounding today, and that's sustainability. And so again, I'm sure a lot of people will learn one or two or more things from all the conversations we've had. I want to say thank you again for your time, and wishing you a lovely day. Thank you.